We have had quite the change in the past 6 months in the number of council seats and individuals moving out of their wards. And with the mayor resigning, and my appointment also opened up another council seat. And so we have 2 applicants for the at-large position that I have vacated. And we did do extensive interviews on Monday, but what I would like to do tonight is I would like to go ahead and offer one more opportunity to go around the table. If you have any questions to ask the candidates, and then I'd like to give them the opportunity to make any statement that they would like to make to the council before we take a motion on that appointment. And so, Mr. Lukensmeyer, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. If you have any further questions for the candidates, and then we can have conversation after they make their statements.
Okay, you want them to come?
If you two would like to come to the table again, that would be great. If you have questions for one or both, either way, however you'd like to do it.
I'll ask the same question to both, and I think I started with you, Pat, last time, so I can start with Sean. My question deals directly with an issue that we have, since I've been on the council, we have talked about it, and we've worked hard at it. That's nuisance violations and what to do with poor structured houses, and mowing, and all the whole snow, lack of snow removal. So my question to you guys, the candidates, has to do more with, not with mowing, not with snow removal, but with houses that are in this 40 percentile that we heard about earlier. And just to clarify your stance and how you would approach that, and your feelings as far as what needs to be done.
I think I've given this a little thought over the last couple of days. There was extensive discussion, and you're right, this goes back several years, even before my time as mayor. I think what needs to happen is we need to maybe go into some deeper discussion, some deeper study with this. We can talk in circles all day long about whether it be snow removal or lawn care. Really, the issue goes much deeper than that. And I think it's actually maybe a socioeconomic issue that maybe we need to talk to some community financiers about and see what proposals they might have. Maybe there's an outside group that needs to be started to help to encourage and stimulate some property owners, and because I don't think it's necessarily a lack of property owners or even renters that don't take pride in where they live. I think there's an economic burden when it comes to certain aspects of this, and so I don't think it's so much anything that the council is going to address with any new ordinances or any new action, other than like I said, deeper study. Reaching out into the financial community to see what options might be available. And we did talk about enforcement quite a bit. And I think that goes into the judicial system. We have run into a lot of brick walls when it comes to the judicial system, lack of follow-through and lack of support there. Obviously, city staff has to have support from council, and I'm prepared to offer that support as a council member should you appoint me tonight. But we also need to follow through with the other levels of government. And so, as I mentioned the other night, one of the things that we need to potentially address is, seeing what can be done at the legislative level to maybe free up some funds for the judicial branch here at the county or regional level, and see what we can do there. But again, most basically, I think there's something that's going on economically that causes this, and that part would be out of council's hands, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that council can't search for answers and potentially move some things around and open up suggestions for possible solutions.
Thank you.
Looking at a part-time or half-time or split time with another city or county code enforcement officer, Doug does a good job, but there are only so many hours in a day, and he's got a staff of his own to run. Water, sewer, or down a guy at the cemetery, and course, just parks and recs and things like that. Funny thing about Hampton is everybody wants honesty. Well, you want to be honest with people. You know, Pat, you need to be honest with people. Well, I'm honest with people, then they think I'm a jerk. And so some of these rules that we've come up with are decent rules. They're good laws. We can't get them through our courthouse. And you could back a dump truck full of money up to that courthouse and dump it right there, and it still wouldn't solve one problem with some of our attitudes towards the city of Hampton from our judicial system and the magistrate's office. I don't know how we work around that. It keeps feeding back to us, and that takes time, eats up lawyers' money. Our lawyer doesn't work for free around here. Nobody's does. And so we overload the docket with these nuisances and nothing, it's nitpicky or it's whatever, they didn't get enough time or whatever. Hanjin also has a little bit of a problem is that's a great law, it just isn't for me. Yeah, my lawn's 8 inches long, but my neighbor's is 12 inches long. You haven't seen my neighbor's lawn. And so we have a lot of that in town too, yeah, it's me, but it's them too. And so laying the blame squarely where it needs to go is good. I talked a little bit about the Mason City See It, Click It, Fix It, report it program that they have up there. I'm not sure the cost, I'm not sure the effectiveness, but it would take some of the burden off the people in the office to handle calls all day, so-and-so hasn't mowed their lawn or whatever, and to take a look at some of those things. And like I said, I think that would help. I don't expect Hampton to look like a homeowners association. I mean, I saw the other day somebody complaining on the internet about somebody had a piece of wood trim laying somewhere in the one of the homeowners association's neighborhoods in Mason City. Well, we can't be that picky. Like Barry said the other day, we need some jobs. If you've got a family of 4 and you're paying for diapers and music lessons or formula or whatever people pay for that have kids, and they're working 2 jobs, yeah, maybe siding the house just isn't in the budget this year. And so we have some of that. So again, that part's out of our hands. We can't really control a lot of that. I believe we need to support FCDA with their hopes of getting us some jobs too. So I think we've been up against a brick wall even since my dad was mayor. It just seems it's a never-ending fight in this town.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Davies?
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge?
Yes, I want to stay on the nuisance thing. Sean, do you ever remember writing a letter in 2012 to Doug Tarr, Bob Shaver, Ron Dunn, that nuisances would only be done on a complaint basis?
I do remember that. And, I'm glad Pat brought up the click it, report it thing because, actually, I think that click it, report it thing would actually fit quite well with that policy. One of the, yeah, that's my letterhead. The aim or the goal at the time, and I'm not going to go into defending what my stance from 7 years ago, but the definition of a nuisance, it can't be a nuisance if it doesn't bother anybody, is essentially the impetus there. But nuisance, obviously, what we're talking about here in terms of property nuisances bothers a lot of people. That's why it's an ordinance in the city of Hampton. As far as going back to what Pat mentioned about the click it and report it, that's 100% what this was getting at is if you have a neighbor, maybe you don't want to say anything to that neighbor, maybe you don't want to call up here and have your voice recognized, maybe you don't want to call up here and give your name to Chief Schaefer, to Doug, or to Ron. A program like that could provide an anonymous source to get some of these reported, and then it becomes a process of how do we get them, ticketed and taken care of, but then we still have the problem of the court system. I think especially over the course of the last few months, I don't think identifying nuisances is necessarily a problem. I think that's taking place. I think it's getting these things through the court system.
You have to, would you agree that an ordinance or a code is a law,
Absolutely,
and the law should be followed?
absolutely.
I don't know how we're ever gonna follow it on a complaint basis only, I guess. I have some real concerns about that.
Sure. So let me address that if I can real quick. So in government, obviously, you have separate branches. You have the executive, the legislative, the judicial. In my role as the executive at the time, it's generally executive role to administer the ordinances and the laws as they see fit. At that particular time, again, I'm not going to go back and litigate what I felt in 2012, because what I feel in 2019 is not what I feel in 2012. However, give an example from the federal government. Just today, the federal government decided that they were going to start administering the death penalty again. Now that law never changed, but for 20 years, they didn't execute it because the executive branch didn't want to. Similar type of thing here, obviously on a much smaller scale. So that's kind of the thought process that I was going through then, and we had quite a verbal sparring match, I recall, over this memo at the time, and I lost soundly. There wasn't support on the council for this, and their direction to city staff was to continue enforcing, and that's exactly what happened. So, the process works. So that's what I would say about this memo, and it's public record. It's a leaflet in history, if you will. And yeah, thanks for the question.
We came close to executing a few people on nuisances.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lamos? Okay. So what we have, just so that the council is aware, what we have then is we have two people, right? One is a former council member, and one is a former mayor, and I think we have two qualified candidates, and both of them, of course, meet the qualifications of the code, which is really in the city of Hampton. And they're both willing to serve, and both have been in public service before. We are in a unique position in that with Lance leaving at the time that he did, it leaves us with an even number of council members. And this, because of the way that our ordinance and city is structured, is one of the things that the mayor cannot vote on. The mayor cannot vote on the council appointment. Because of that, I can't vote to break a tie. So at this point in time, if we have two people and we have a 2-2 tie and a 2-2 tie, then we will move it on to the next agenda until we don't have a 2-2 tie. If we don't have a 2-2 tie, then somebody will be appointed tonight, and we will go ahead and swear them in, and we will move on. So, with that being said, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion, Pat Palmer.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion, and I have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none? Oh,
The only discussion that I would have is that I think both of the candidates have had good ideas. Ideas that we should be implementing, regardless who sits in the chair. There's no question about that. And based on my experience with the two candidates, I just have to say publicly that I would not be in favor of Pat Palmer.
any other discussion?
It just would take a 3-to-1 vote to pass it, right? We don't
Yes.
need all four.
Correct. Hearing no other discussion, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Roll call.
Oh, thank you, sir. So I have a roll call vote. So, Davies,
I'll vote aye.
Lamos,
Aye.
Hodge,
Aye.
Lukensmeyer,
Nay.
and the motion carries. and swear you in tonight, sorry.
We take a little recess.
But if you would repeat after me, I, Pat Palmer,
I, Patrick Palmer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Iowa,
of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially,
and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of the office
of the office
of City Council Member
of City Council Member
in Hampton
in Hanjin
as now
as now
or hereafter required by law.
or hereafter required by law.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Take a seat.